So, as promised, an update around the French molt. I had a huge outbreak of French molt last year. It was the first time it had ever hit my aviaries, and it swept through. These are all last spring's babies. Babies that had the French molt and lost all their feathers. This little dilute right here had not a single feather on her, and neither did her brother right there. And they are clearly hale and hearty with all their feathers on and doing really well. Let's see, who else? This little recessive pied mix right here lost all of her flight feathers and her tail feathers and has grown them all back and flies straight. This little girl, where is she? She just moved. There she is. This little violet girl right here lost just her tail feathers. Grew them back. Everything's fine. It took her a long time, but she did it. Who else? This little gray down here, the little gray female that's loving on baby Bubba. She lost her wing and tail feathers and grew them back, and she's a beautiful bird. So it is true that the vast majority of birds that get this end up growing everything back. Now, this little guy, I have another situation that happened here. I had a handful, probably 8 chicks, that I call failure to thrive. They got really, really skinny. They weren't growing their feathers back. They just weren't doing anything. They had stalled out, and they were so thin and emaciated, I couldn't figure out what was going on. But I've finally discovered that I have candida circling around through my cages. And those babies were weakened by the French molt and picked up the candida. And the candida upsets their stomach, so they can't process food. So they just stopped growing, stopped eating, didn't get their feathers back or anything. This is one of them who has finally grown a tail. He's grown a couple of wing feathers and then dropped them off again. But the most important thing is he's put on weight and he's growing. So he's a success story. I have a few others that were hopeless cases, and I had to go ahead and put them down because the suffering is pretty terrible. And they just, no matter how many times I treated them for the candida, it was too advanced and it wasn't clearing. They would just relapse again the minute I was done treating. So there were, I think, 4 of them that I went ahead and put down. But again, this was not about the French molt. The French molt complicated it. But it was the candida that was causing them to be unable to take in nutrition and therefore unable to fight off the French molt. So then I do have these 3 left in here. This chick here, this one right next to him. This chick here was, her parents were Remington and James Bond. This one was Mars and Athena, and this one down here was Buster and Sky's baby. They are improving. They are getting more feather on their body. They're eating more. Their ribs are starting to fill in, and they are getting better. So they still haven't grown back their feathers yet, but you can't grow feathers if you can't eat. So I am going to treat them again because it helped, and do an extended treatment and see if that won't get them back up on their feet. So this is the last of my French molt babies, and again, they're having problems because the French molt was complicated by candida. So, but yeah, so my overall impression of the French molt is that it is true, it is ridiculous to cull or anything else because the babies simply grow all their feathers back in again. Meanwhile, spreading around the sickness so that everybody gets it and grows immunities to it so that the flock is safer for it. So, yeah, look at you, little poor. He's kind of, he flies a little bit because he has his secondary flight feathers, and he's full of beans. So I'm glad to see him all. Look at you. He's singing his territory song now. He's also molting. Good. Grow some more feathers. And look at that nice long tail he grew in there. So yeah, my conclusion is, yeah, if you end up with chicks with French molt, just put them in a smaller cage so they can get around and get their food and stuff, and they will grow their feathers back. All of these birds are 4 to 6 months old, and they've pretty much all grown their feathers back except for the ones that had the candida complication. So it doesn't even take a whole year. I would say it's 6 months. You could bet that they will have all their feathers in and be just fine. So unless they come down with some other complication, because the French molt is an illness, and if they get exposed to something else on top of it, then they're not going to be able to fight it off. So, as mine did with the Candida. So make sure your flock is parasite-free. Make sure everybody's healthy and strong, and the French molt is it's basically the chicken pox. This is not a big deal. And that's good news, because several of my chicks that came down with French molt have grown all their feathers back, and it's very obvious that they're going to do just fine on the show bench once they finish growing up. So I'm excited about that. All right, that's it for the French molt follow-up.